Friends, nerds, Whovians, it is the final few days before we get the finale to series/season 1 of Doctor Who. Just a couple of days until Empire of Death drops. And so, in that time, in those couple of days, we are going to look at all of the possible harebrained, madcapped, completely insane, or incredibly correct theories that may reveal who our Ruby Sunday is, who is Mrs. Flood, and what else do we have that is important. Let's watch on and find out. So, as some of you may know, if you are regular viewers of our channel or our Facebook page, and if not, why not? Like, subscribe right now, get it done, then come back to me. I'll wait, go on, quick, down there, yeah, you're all done? Good, right, okay. So, as a lot of you may know who have previously watched our recent video, our little short,
Susan Twist is actually Sutekh from classic Doctor Who.
We completely predicted the arrival of Sutekh as the season's big bad. Tom put the clues together and came to the same conclusion that the Doctor did, but too late, about the cunning play on words and Sutekh, Susan Technologies. So you got to stick with us because we know what we're talking about. We're good at this. We've been doing it a while now. So yeah, let's take a look. Who should we look at first? All right, let's go to the core of the matter. Let's go to Ruby. My goodness me. Who is Ruby Sunday? What do we know? We know very little about Ruby. We know that on Christmas Eve in 2005, I think, which is, just unacceptably young, by the way. People being born this millennium, I don't know what you're doing, but please stop it. So yeah, Christmas Eve in 2005, Ruby was left. Was it 2004, actually? Sorry, Christmas Eve 2004. I'm getting my timelines mixed up. Ruby was left at the church as a baby on Ruby Road, and left by a mysterious hooded figure who we know nothing about. And this is the core of the mystery of Ruby, because Ruby seems to have an inbuilt memory of that place. Every time she's distressed, every time she has a intense period, she remembers and summons forth the snow of that night, which is some kind of time-bending power that has even the Doctor confused. So, who is Ruby? And as a result of that, who is Ruby's mother as well? So, Ruby. Who could Ruby be? So, the obvious one to look at, based upon the season we have seen so far, is that Ruby is a Time Lord. It's not necessarily a guarantee, but the way things are going, the Doctor has scanned and found human DNA, but we know that a chameleon arch will deal with that and create a handy little fob watch, which is somewhere at this point in time. So something is bleeding through from Ruby, and it is a power that is linked to time and coincidence. She created her own timeline in much the way that happened to Donna in Turn Left, although with Donna it was created around her by the Trickster's Beetle, again another one of the Pantheon, the Trickster's Beetle feeding on the possibilities, and with Donna there were a lot of possibilities, but the same could be said about Ruby. Now, with Donna's separate timeline and universe that sprung up all around her, it allowed other people in. Ruby's did not. Ruby's was solely almost an unconscious choice. It's the ability of Ruby to push everyone else out in order to fix this problem. And we talk about the mystical circle onto which she stepped, but nobody called it a fairy circle until the end, when Ruby had heard it was a fairy circle. At that point, the Doctor called it a fairy circle, but the first time he only called it a circle. So Ruby Ruby's powers center around time. So is she a Time Lord who doesn't know she's a Time Lord? Not the one that is hiding, but one that has been hidden. Or is she more? Is she a child of the Pantheon? Because we know they have children. Maestro is the Trickster's child. So do we think that perhaps these powers that are bleeding through and these timelines that she is creating is her power bleeding through? Do we think that this is all a plaything for a young member of the Pantheon? And I was kind of thinking that the whole universe might not be real, and it might all be a facsimile created where Ruby gets to play with the Doctor during her adolescence as such. But then Sutekh turns up at the end, and I'm not so sure, unless we're going to have a big flat, oh, everyone was asleep or everyone died, lost sort of ending. I don't think we're going to have this is no longer a real world. I think this is actually happening, and the breaking of the fourth wall is something else entirely. We'll see where that goes, I suppose, in the next series, providing people survive. So, is she a member of the Pantheon? Whose child could she be? Again, unknown. We've had members of the Pantheon listed, but none of them particularly are gods who would be interested in creating a child like this, especially one who seems so significant and is put there at a point in time in order to be in a position 20 years down the line to interact with a returning Sutekh. Now, Sutech's bad news for everyone. Sutech's bad news for the Pantheon, bad news for all life, bad news for everybody. Sutekh is just keen on an empire of death, and I think we'll see that. We've seen the clips coming. We've seen the sand and the storm around the earth, and so I think if Ruby is a member of the Pantheon, then Ruby is there and has been positioned in order to be the antithesis of Sutekh. How? I don't know. What do you think? Let us know below. The other question, and this one, I'm leaning almost towards this. Although I don't know who Ruby would be in this situation, I think there are two ways to look at 73 Yards, which is just still the standout episode of the series. Either the Ruby created the person at 73 Yards because of the video where her mother dropped her off, the poor video, because the video was from a CCTV camera 66 meters away, which is 73 yards. So either she has reinforced that, and therefore this figure she sees in the distance, she's willing to be that far away because that's the only vision she's ever had of her mother, or the reason in the time window they cannot see her mother and is always shadowed is because the only visual recording of it is from 66 meters away, and therefore no matter how much you extrapolate that to put people in place, the visual you have got is always of a shrouded figure. So does that mean that the hooded figure who is placing the baby at Ruby Road is in fact Ruby placing herself at Ruby Road in order to create a closed loop? Would it be a... I don't know if it would break. I mean, because it's a closed loop, I don't know how much of a paradox it would be, but certainly a closed loop in time where, with there being two TARDISes present, interesting timey-wimey stuff always happens, especially when it's the same TARDIS in the same place and you know how they bleed through to each other and stuff. So, especially with at least one of them at that point being possessed by Sutekh, because interestingly, in the time window, you only saw one TARDIS with the outline around it. So if the other TARDIS was possessed, then Sutekh did not have much power at the start of Ruby Road, and it's taken the whole series to get there, or Sutekh possessed the TARDIS after that. Now, if that's the case, and Ruby is creating herself, either this happened during the events of 73 Yards, which makes that episode even more significant in the scale of this series, or she does it again, and now she's in the time window, everyone else is absolutely screwed with. Is it possible that she, in this episode, is going to go forth and create herself to create some form of loop whereby she is able to fix things given enough tries? Are we going to have something like the 12th Doctor going through the maze and punching the wall 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion times in order to eventually wear his way down to break out? and eventually Ruby's going to be able to find a way out of this situation for everybody. So is she almost a self-fulfilling construct, once guided by the Doctor, that will allow this situation to be fixed? A very literal, not God in the machine, but a certain Deus Ex Machina solution whereby we can, she's been there all along. She's a solution that creates herself. We've had it before. Bad Wolf is the thing we've got to look at, with Rose looking into the heart of the TARDIS. Bad Wolf was the moment that created itself in order to save things.
I am the bad wolf. I create myself.
And so it could happen again. It doesn't need to be Bad Wolf. We've not seen a Bad Wolf hint at all. I don't think we've seen a Bad Wolf hint. Worth looking actually again about that, but I don't think we have. It's far too focused on Susan Twist showing up in every episode. So yeah, Ruby, 3 options. Could be any of them. Who knows? But importantly, some mystery. And something that we need to solve in this episode, because she's not going to be in, as far as we're aware, much of next series. She's going to be in some of it, maybe half, as it goes into a 2-companion setup. But we need to answer the mystery of Ruby Sunday. It's very important. So, moving on. How about Mrs. Flood, then? Mrs. Flood is the real mystery here. Mrs. Flood, who could be a Time Lord, because she is always hiding herself away, which was mentioned just moments after the Doctor explained that Time Lords can change their face and regenerate, sometimes to recover from injury and other times to hide themselves away. Big hint there. But also, she knows what's going on. She knows there's a storm coming. She's got a sort of far off look in her eyes. She carries an air of menace about her, but I don't think she's necessarily evil. She knows what a TARDIS is. When she walks into Ruby's flat, she disrupted the clock, which is either an effect on technology or some form of time-bending situation. Now, I don't necessarily know if the Doctor's looked into her directly, but he would know a Time Lord, he says. So again, always hiding herself away, but she's self-aware, this one. She's not used the chameleon arch to become human and stay that way. So she could just be an older Time Lord. Now, everyone says Susan, and I am inclined to agree. She could well be Susan. She could well be the Rani. However, Wright's issue with the Rani, I think a lot of people have wanted the Rani for a long time, and it's not been possible because someone else owns the rights, and it's a big, complicated mess that's not easy to fix. So if that's the case, then it really needs to be fixed, please, BBC and the estate. That's good. However, I don't believe we've mentioned the Rani until this series, and at the start of this series it was Ncuti mentioned the Rani as a Time Lord, which means maybe that's been fixed. Maybe finally we can have the Rani show up in an episode or more and have storylines. So maybe Mrs. Flood is the Rani, maybe Mrs. Flood is Susan. Who knows? Could be either. Could be more. Could be someone we've not seen before, or she could be someone entirely different. There's a lot about her that is very, very close to being familiar. She carries a lot of elements of other companions about her. She wore almost exactly the same jumper shirt combination as Clara did, but she can't be Clara because Clara can't age. She has got the name Flood, which it links directly to Amy Pond, and therefore Melody Pond, aka River Song. So we have that link in. She wore a puffer jacket in a very similar way to Rose wore one when she showed up in the specials. So she's got so many things harking her back to other companions, to Time Lords, and to just having knowledge of things. So whoever she is, it is significant. Now, I'll go plump and say that maybe she's Susan, because she's been there and she knows about things, and too many things line up. And Russell T Davies said that this is a slow burner, and so maybe we'll find out in this episode, maybe we'll find out next series, who knows. But I'm excited to find out. It's a really good one. One theory I did have, which I'm not so sure about now, is that Susan Triad, Ruby Sunday, and Mrs. Flood were all Susan. Different generations of them. Now, I'm going to leave you to work on that. I'm going to end this here because I think that one's mad. But what do you think about it? Leave us a like, subscribe, let us know what you think, and we'll be back hopefully with one more before it drops. Take care. We'll see you soon.